No, we didn't. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rise Up, where we talk about responsibility, integrity, service, and empathy in action. And what I like to say was learn what's going on in the world and the difference that I can make. We've got almost all of us in the studio today. We've got Naria Gorder. Hello. Iris Vojtovic. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. And so we're going to hop right into our show today. We do have, I think, some somber news that we'd like to talk about briefly, and then go into some happier news. Close with a bit of a word from myself, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's start with the. I'm sure, as you've all heard, in Afghanistan there was a hostile takeover by the Taliban, right as the America was. Pulling back our troops and kind of allowing the government there in Afghanistan to recover and kind of start to manage on its own, which is ultimately the purpose after being there for 20 years. But it's really unfortunate that this happened. And, it seems like there's a lot of different points of view on what America's involvement should be overseas. And there's a lot of confusion. Chaos, if you will. And so I think it's, reflecting on all of the, those in our national government and Congress doing their best right now to really understand the full problem, understand what can we do at this point in time. So that I know that they're working very hard. In fact, we had one of our congressional reps who was planning to attend our event yesterday, but was unable to, because of the need to address the situation. All hands on deck for this. So let's continue to keep our representatives in our hearts and mind to help them do the best we can to make the right decision at this time. When I reflect on this, I'm reminded about these conflicts. They do happen, and they sometimes we feel a bit removed from it because, we're Americans and we're quite privileged to be living here and being citizens here. And, as you might have heard, President Biden said, we are absolutely determined to bring all of our American citizens safely home. So it's wonderful. And so I think this is also kind of a wake-up call that the whole world is, we need to start to see ourselves as global citizens somehow and understand that we can't separate ourselves from the things that are happening in other countries. How much influence America should play, that might always be a question, but I think we should always have a heart that all people can live in peace, which I think is ultimately everyone's hope for that. And so, yeah, I thought I'd just open up at this point. I don't know, Naria or Iris, if you have any other thoughts or questions about this matter, which I may not be able to answer, but for all those who are maybe feeling kind of uncertain about our future, or I think that's the best way to put it. I guess I should say the UN, the Security Council, they had a press statement saying that they are calling for immediate cessation of all hostilities and the establishment through inclusive negotiations of a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative. They've also called for the end of all violence in Afghanistan. They've expressed deep concern for the number of reported serious violations of international humanitarian law and human rights abuses, and calling for strengthened efforts to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, and to reaffirm the importance of combating terrorism in Afghanistan. And finally, to reiterate their support to the work of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, the UNAMA. And they emphasize the importance of the safety and security of United Nations personnel, as well as diplomatic and consular personnel of United Nations member states. So that is the UN Security Council's press release on this. But any other thoughts? Or
Yeah, I've also noticed it's very it's overwhelming to see like all the different things happening that really needs humanitarian aid and support. Like when you talk about with the war that's happening, but also there's like famine and natural disasters and displacement happening. Also, I see oftentimes a lot of ads in my news feed for help, different organizations and also the UN and UNICEF asking for support and donations for these kinds of things. And yeah, it's true when you talk about how um, where we wonder how much should America be involved in other countries' affairs in in that aspect. Definitely, it's great to be able to help, but then also you don't want to. It's interesting how America is involved in so many different things in the Middle East when you think about it, and no other countries really as much. But I think that's where the UN plays an important role because the UN doesn't just represent one country; it's like all the different member states that are involved, like 193, if I remember right. Um, and yeah, so I think that's where the UN plays like kind of a very important role, I guess. And I'm glad they made this statement, but it would be nice to see more happen, I guess. And I don't know if the UN has as much influence maybe as like an entire nation might, um, and with like the financial backing, but also military and services and support. So yeah, those are the thoughts that come to mind. But yeah, I definitely when you say that, yeah, when a conflict or some kind of disaster is happening in another country, you feel disconnected from that, and unless you have some kind of personal connection. And for me, I actually do have some kind of personal connection in Afghanistan because I have a very good friend who is from there, and so every time I hear about this conflict, I really worry about how he's doing and what's going on with his family. Like he one time shared with me that he was riding on a bus and there would be gunshots going around outside the bus. So yeah, that kind of puts into kind of perspective the reality of what it's like being there. And that was before the war started, in the whole conflict. So um, yeah, it's my heart goes out to them, and I really hope that something can be done about that.
yeah, it's really true. And how is
Yeah,
your friend
I
doing?
mean,
Do you know? Oh, yeah.
yeah. Oh no, it's okay.
Oh,
It's
is your friend okay, Naria? As you or reach out to him?
Um, well, I did reach out to another friend to try to find out how he's doing, and right now he's in another country, but his family's still in Afghanistan. So, yeah, I hope to get in touch with him to see how he's doing.
Mhm. Yeah, pray for safety. Oh, and Iris.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the point you were saying about our somewhat obliviousness as Americans because we've almost never, at least I can speak for my generation, like we've never experienced war at home, or anything nearly as just world shaking like that. I mean, of course, we have a pandemic, but I mean, that's just nothing really compared to having your like rights nearly stripped away from you and things like that. So, yeah, trying to put it in perspective for our generation to have some sort of empathy or compassion is really important. What I have been seeing though is a lot of posts on social media being circulated to spread awareness on what's going on overseas, and people sharing different links for donations or where to learn more about what's going on over there, how to stay updated, and how to help certain family members too. So it's good to see that effort coming from our generation on social media. So hopefully that turns into action. And like you were also saying, Naria, about seeing more concrete action from our nation or from the UN, that would be really great to see too, especially during such dire times, I feel. Yeah, because no one nation is independent of the other. We're all interdependent, whether we like it or not. So if one of us is threatened, then all of us are threatened, really. So yeah, trying to make sure that everyone has their rights and everyone has access to the same equal opportunities is incredibly important. And I think that's something that my generation recognizes now. So if there's a way to, I don't know, just create more support and action to help a nation in need, it would also set a precedent for future examples and future nations that also need our help. So yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, we're all processing right now, I guess, because it's just that fresh.
Yeah. Do you know what the donation could go towards, like the mission there, or do you know? You mentioned there's a way to donate or contribute towards
Yeah,
that.
there are multiple ways. I mean, people are sharing links, like GoFundMe links, to support individual family members who are trying to leave Afghanistan, or there are different non-for-profit groups that are supporting refugees or also surrounding nations that you could support to and send funding to.
I see. So not like a UN sort of one yet. Maybe they're still working on that, or
No, not that
we
I
can
know
look
of.
into that. Okay. Yes. So we continue forward, and I think the solution is nothing straightforward. I think it's going to require a lot of discussion and dialogue and thinking. So let's continue to support by raising awareness, like you said, and to do what we can here at home, create more peace, more intercultural exchange. Um, Peace starts with me. So let's now go into some other more encouraging stories. So we're gonna continue forward to sharing about how we can make peace in our own backyard. So Iris, if you would, share with us your stories today.
Absolutely. So, perfect segue into this next story. Though it comes to us from across the pond, I still feel like it was worth sharing to inspire you all to find creative solutions to support the different programs that you love. So, this boy, 11-year-old Max Woozy, serendipitously became a fundraiser for his local hospice center. So he had a friend, his neighbor named Rick Abbott, who had terminal cancer. And right before he passed, at the height of COVID-19, at the height of the COVID pandemic, Rick gave Max a tent saying, with his tent, like, please go and have adventures in life. And because of how grateful Max and his family was for the hospice center and how much they took care of their friend, he decided on March 29th, 2020, to camp out in his backyard to raise at least £100 for this hospice center. And so there's that picture of him on his first night, just all cozied up with his plushed animals and stuff. And since then, he's been raising money ever since, living out and camping out of this tent. It has been almost 500 days now that he's been camping out in this tent straight. He even went through a storm and a big winter snow. He even had to get a new tent at one point, but he has continued living in this tent to continue raising money for this hospice center, because this hospice center's fundraising events also were all canceled because of COVID. So yes, he has been raising money ever since, even celebrating holidays in it, spending Christmas in the tent too. But yeah, and since then, on his 500th consecutive night, he announced that he had raised over $770,000 from strangers around the world for this hospice center. And so I guess the story is just to inspire you to be creative in the ways that you want to support your local organizations and yeah, make a difference. I mean, he's camping out in his backyard with his dog, and it's probably his heart that's moving everyone to donate so much. And so, yeah, I don't know. Be creative about how you want to support your local organizations and think about how you can, yeah, be that support, be that hope for your community in big or small ways. And so, yes, then going into my second story. Now, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Catch Me If You Can, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. One of my personal favorites, actually. So consider this a modern version of that movie, where instead of Leonardo DiCaprio taking money from banks and committing millions of dollars worth of fraud, in a dramatic digital turn of events, a hacker who, with a heart of gold, as this article says, managed to steal $600 million worth of cryptocurrency from a trading site and decided to return all the money. And because of that, he was actually offered a job as chief security advisor for this company. So the company is called Poly Network. And yes, it's a platform for making cryptocurrency transactions across different blockchains. And was shocked to find out that more than, yes, 500,000 was stolen through a vulnerability in the coding in the site identified by a hacker named Mr. White Hat. Now, though Mr. White Hat couldn't turn the cryptocurrency into dollars because all the assets were frozen, Poly Network still decided to hire him because he was the only one that figured out a bug in the system. So, of course, like Tom Hanks hiring Leonardo DiCaprio, if you can't beat them, join them. And yes, so unfortunately, Mr. White Hat turned down the job, still gave back the money. But yes, Poly Network wanted to even offer him $500,000 off the bat to join the team and show Poly Network what the bug was. And so yes, Mr. White Hat didn't accept the money, nor did he accept the job position, but still decided to return the money that he stole anyway, or that they stole. And with that, the Poly Network group has decided to offer a bounty, a bug bounty, on anyone of up to $100,000 for anyone who can find a bug in their system, for any hacker who can find a bug in their system. And yeah, I don't know how many bugs they have found yet, or if anyone else has stepped up to the plate. But yeah, I guess the moral of the story is sometimes it's just maybe you're not a hacker, and maybe you're not you don't have the means of stealing $600 million worth of cryptocurrency, but I guess his heart to give it back, and the company's heart to not to arrest Mr. White Hat, and instead try to hire him to figure out a solution together. I guess that's the sort of spirit that we're looking for these days. This heart of just cooperation and compassion, I guess. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about this story. I think it's quite funny. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that. And I mean, if you are a great coding person, maybe we can hire you on our YSP team to help us find better ways of promoting ourselves. And yeah, I don't know, I'm a bit flabbergasted by the story. I think I just picked it because of a bit of my bias for this being one of my favorite movies, just a live action version. But yeah, find creative ways to work with those around you and build up support for the things that are important to you, I guess.
Thank you.
Sounds like modern day digital bounty hunting there.
Absolutely.
Well, if we can get a hacker to stream Rise Up on every computer right now, that would be great. No, but that's such a funny story, and I think for me, what as I'm reflecting on this, it's appealing to the human, our humanness. With even though this guy, he honestly those assets were frozen anyway. He couldn't actually, take that money in, but it was kind of we live in a world that's much more, what should I say? There's more eyes. There's less ways to hide or to steal because we're so interconnected. It's like even the computers now and like cryptocurrency. Every transaction is monitored by hundreds of different computers. So it's like there's a lot more transparency is what I'm saying. So at the same time, I mean, this company was smart to, kind of put a bounty on bugs. I thought that's what a brilliant idea. Rather than, like you said, rather than try to prosecute these people, well, it's like, well, they have a point, and actually you're actually benefiting by strengthening the security of your system as a result. So maybe you should thank them by offering them a job. So I think it's really interesting. And it makes me hopeful for this new world that we're making. More transparency, there's more cooperation, and just appreciating those who deserve it. So, and the other story about the boy, I think this is such a beautiful example of this filial heart towards your elders, and I think people love the innocence, the purity of this effort. And 500 days, that's a lot of days. So I think that is quite extreme and something that's viral in and of itself. So, but yeah, it kind of reflects on life, and you only live once, et cetera, et cetera. And let's live our lives not just for ourselves, but for our elders who maybe didn't get that chance. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Naria?
Yeah, I was thinking it's kind of the same thing. The creativity and ways that we can raise funds, and also how to apply that to help with the humanitarian aid that we were talking about earlier with Afghanistan and all the other countries that really need help. And so kind of is making me also think about what can I do that might be inspiring to help raise funds, and makes me wonder how did Max Abbott I guess promote his fundraiser with tenting in the backyard and being able to find people inspired from all around the world to help donate. So that's pretty cool. And I've gone camping, and it's not fun to camp in the rain and in the snow. So that alone is a challenge. But at least he's in his backyard and not too far away from safety and amenities.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of camping either. I'm more of a glamper. So when I heard the story, I was like, oh my goodness, this is definitely going to grow my heart, I guess. Or it's just really staring me in the face to take up the challenge.
It's like you can sew a dress every day.
So actually, I wanted to ask you guys, if you guys were to do something similar, what kind of campaign or promotion would you do to help raise funds? Give up coffee for a year or something like that, or I'm not sure what else. I can't say that because I don't drink coffee, so it wouldn't really count or be impressive. But
oh my goodness, my French mother would disown me if I gave up coffee. It's a cultural thing at this point in my house. You drink it for the sake of culture, not because you need it or want it. Oh my goodness. I guess for me, it would probably be something along the lines of fashion or sewing. Maybe making, I guess the easiest thing I can make offhand is bucket hats, and then sending them to people. I don't know.
Bucket hats? What's a bucket hat?
It's basically it's the fishing hat that fishermen wear when you go on a little fishing trip or fishing outing, and then I don't know. It's been turned into a big fashion statement now. At least it's the latest hat accessory trend.
what it basically had like a huge canopy that kind of goes around, and it's kind of like wavy, sort of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I have much to learn. I'm a student of. I'm a fashion student here in this show. No, giving up coffee every day would be kind of like the Super Size Me, movie. Slowly, I'm falling apart. Like, no, I mean, I'm not that addicted to coffee. But although I went one day yesterday without it, and it wasn't the happiest. But yes, sacrifices for peace. Let me give a short talk to close us out here. And yesterday, I'm wearing this pink shirt. If you haven't noticed, it says Peace Road 2021 USA. We had a service project in the Bronx of New York City. And there we were gathered by a lot of young people from around the country and from New York and New Jersey. And the project was at a farm called the Takeover Community Farm, and they have I can't stop talking about it. They have such a great vision there. So imagine like a 3-generation family deciding to create a safe haven in the middle of the Bronx, and it's kind of a rough part of town. Yet when people enter that farm, they've got chickens, orchards, all kinds of vegetables and herbs being planted there, and it's beautiful. And I wish I could show some photos, but you can check them out at Peace Road USA on Facebook. But the vision of this farm is that when you enter that place, no matter where you're coming from, you're always welcome. But you're not there for yourself. You're there to serve. And you're there to put your hands in the soil and to help out. Of course, you can be fed too. They've got the eggs, and I mean, those apples are literally falling off the trees, and if you don't pick them, they make a mess. So you could literally take buckets out of there if you wanted. But you're there to serve. And they say like in the evening time, people hang around there and just feel safe, because life is so crazy and busy all the time, and what they call it a gray jungle out there. But when you're there, it is really peaceful. And the owner and the family who runs it, they're a Muslim family, and taqwa is a word for like devotion, for kind of reverence to God, and you can really feel that spirit there. And I think we all felt it and felt like we could contribute to it as all of our effort. I mean, we really did a lot of work. We had like about 70 of our participants there, and wearing these pink shirts. And I was surprised that we were all very busy the entire time, picking the fruits off the trees, kind of moving different like the tables around. We did a lot of weeding. Like, we picked a lot of places clean. So we really transformed that place. And this project together, coming from different backgrounds, also some people from the neighborhood came. We were able to bridge cultures, and that's the spirit of Peace Road, to bridge cultures of peace, for peace. And so even we were all wearing these pink shirts. You couldn't even tell who was like coming from which group. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is that peace doesn't care where you're from or what culture you're from. We're all beautiful people, children of our Creator. And I think a lot of people who are here for the first time they were testifying to that and saying something was different about this group and this short period we had together. And of course, we had to talk about Afghanistan and just feeling like, man, if we could only have more than fleeting moments like this, where we can create a community out of nowhere. It's like in creating family. I think that's it goes beyond politics and religion even. It's about how can we use our creativity to bring ourselves closer together, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, parent and children. So that's what Peace Road's all about, and that's what YSP is all about too. So that's my message today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that reminds me of this project that I once heard of. Actually, I was sitting next to this guy on a plane coming out of Albania right at the height of right at the beginning of COVID, and I spoke to him. I don't know, just talking to him, and I forget the name of the project, but him and his not-for-profit group was we're creating parks on borders of different countries to promote peace in the same way that Peace Road is doing.
Well,
Promoting the idea of building one road that connects all of our nations of the world together and all of our continents together. This was a similar group or organization that was working on creating parks between different nations right on the borders, so that to inspire and promote peace, and again saying this idea that we are all people living on this earth together. Why would it be such a bad thing to coexist or even love each other, you know? And so it's projects like this and Peace Road that for me give me hope in the simple but strong nature of love and humanity, and compassion and empathy, just like what we're saying with our values of RISE, responsibility, integrity, service, empathy. And why are those bad things to work on, you know? And I really like that this farm is in the middle of the Bronx too. I believe we have a similar thing in a similar urban farm in Englewood too, here in Chicago actually. I forget the name, but yes, they also have a similar vision and create a similar haven for their community. And so it's really inspiring to see people going to the heart of different troubled areas and having no fear and believing fully in the potential for love and kindness and service to each other to rebuild the community. So thank you for sharing that.
Wow, I've never heard of that, putting parks on borders, national border. That's such a great idea. It would require some kind of cooperation between the countries, and it's just a small little thing, but it's a cultural thing. And that's what we're talking about here, because apparently this Bering Strait tunnel, which is like you're mentioning, which is the real vision of Peace Road, is to put a tunnel between Alaska and Russia. And again, it's more of a cultural thing. And of course, we have to work out who's paying for it and all this sort of thing. But that exchange is enormous. Just connecting, and like we were saying before, we have a way of detaching ourselves from what happens elsewhere in the world. But if we can start seeing ourselves as one human family, and when one part of the world is in pain, then the rest of the world should help. And then and imagine a kind of world like that. Be pretty tight.
It definitely would.
Naria,
thanks for sharing, Miilhan. I was curious. I don't know how much you got to learn about the history of the garden, the Takeover garden in the Bronx, but I was looking at the video and how it's like right there basically they're surrounded by the buildings there in the city. So wondering, was the plot of land something that the three-generation family already had, or was it something that was donated and they started to create? And how was there enough soil? And how did they get enough land to be able to create such a nice big urban farm?
It's a good question. So it was a vacant lot. It was like 25 years ago. I forget the exact year in the 90s where they started, but it was a dump heap. Those tires thrown in there, and it was just another rough part of town that was neglected. But with cooperation from the city government, they were able to make that into a fertile farm. And so as I understand, we had a group from Family Federation send a group out there 25 years ago, and I heard they were doing stuff from disposing of tires to breaking rocks down, like boulders, and to dispose of. And So they came a long way, and it's really unrecognizable, I think, from the time that we first stepped foot there. But yeah, it took a long time, but steady time and investment from the family and from the neighborhood made it to what it is today. We had a neighbor come out. She said she started working there like 8 years ago. Karina, her name was, and she said that she wasn't there to see like the transformation that the farm had on the community, because she kind of was more of a recipient of that. But she definitely knows it's a very important stability aspect, because there's a lot of crime, drug use, youth who are kind of disillusioned there. So, but yeah, people, I saw some families come in there, some young families, and they brought their kids. They had a little playground. Again, it's a safe place. So I'm glad that the city is recognizing that and is supporting it.
That's so cool. I wish I could have gone. I would have loved to have seen it.
We can go back there. I mean, it's
yeah.
All right. Okay. Any other announcements, Naria? Otherwise.
Other than, we still have the synergies coming up in October, so don't forget about it. Deadline for the October 2nd New Jersey Waterways is September 25th for a submission for a presentation. And then we have the Climate Action one on October 16th. Deadline for submission for that is October 9th, I believe. So stay tuned.
Synergy all the way. Guys, I mean, Synergy, your ideas are really important. That's the only way we're going to make any progress towards peace. So please sign up for Synergy. And with that, we're going to close up here. Thanks for joining us. See you next week, everybody.
Bye.